Hello, beautiful people. April Mack here. For those joining late, watching the replay, just hashtag replay so I know you were here. Leave a comment if you find this useful. I'm here today to talk to you about finding your purpose. So hello, I'm going to give a couple of minutes for people to join in case there's some people who want to join this live. And if you do want to join in live, feel free to comment as we go. I may or may not refer to your comments straight away, but please do leave them and then I will definitely come back to them either in the session or afterwards. So I'm just going to make sure I can see comments. Yep, I can now. I have to swipe to be able to see comments as we go. Hello to anyone joining. April Mack here, and I'm here today to talk to you about finding your purpose. It's such an awesome topic. I absolutely love it, and I could talk about it all day. So just watch out. We may go for a little while, and so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's totally fine. You can also watch it on a replay if you have to leave early. I don't actually know how long today's going to take. It could take 20 minutes, maybe up to 20 minutes. Maybe longer if we get really engrossed in it and if there's lots of questions. I think, yeah, probably 15 to 20 will be the minimum amount of time that we spend on it. I could be wrong, but that's roughly what's coming up. So if you're there, say hello and comment so I can see who you are and see and just, ask questions as we go. I'm just going to give a minute or two more for people to join. And anyone, as I say, watching on the replay, just hashtag replay. And let me know if you've got any questions and how it goes for you. So I'm just going to do a little bit of, music while we wait. No, I won't really. But we'll just wait 1 or 2 more minutes in case there's anyone else who's going to join. And even if nobody's watching, I'm going to deliver this training so that I know, because I know people will come back and watch it. So this is also for people just... if you already know what your purpose is or you think you know what it is, it's a useful opportunity to reconnect with that. So even if you already know what your purpose is, you might still get some value out of taking part in what we're about to do. Okay, so should I get started? I think I'll get started. Not seeing any comments, so I'm just going to get started now. So I wanted to, before we begin properly, I do want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm delivering this training to you. And the traditional custodians of this land are the Ngunnawal people. And I want to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. So we're here to talk today about finding your purpose or reconnecting with it if you already know what that is. So it's a big topic, but what I have found personally to be true and for my clients is that it is not necessarily as hard as we think to find our purpose. So I want to talk to you about some ideas that can maybe help you in finding yours very quickly. Theoretically, my belief is that by the end of today, you could theoretically have your purpose nailed down, locked down, and just go for it. So I would love it if that happens for you. Please let me know if it does. It doesn't need to be really, really hard. So when I finally worked this out for myself, that it didn't need to be hard, it was such a relief and a revelation to me that it didn't have to be like searching for a needle in a haystack. And that I would have to spend all my life looking for my purpose. That's what I used to think. I thought, oh, it's so obscure. How am I going to ever know if it's right? What is my purpose? I don't know if anyone else feels like that. If you do, say, yes, I feel that way sometimes too. So that's my first point I want to make is it doesn't have to be hard. And I think if we think it has to be hard and that we have to search for it for our whole lives, we actually make it more complicated than what it needs to be. So that's my first point. I've got a few notes here, so if you see me looking down, it's just me checking my notes because there's a few things I want to touch on and make sure that you get today. The second thing is that I think what happens for most of us is that we probably do have an inkling what our purpose is, but we tend to ignore it. And I want to talk a little bit about why that might be the case. So I think what we do is we ignore it because it may not be what we thought we were here to do. So perhaps, hey Melissa, hey Jody, how are you? I can wave to you guys. I'm just going to do a quick wave to show that I can use this new feature. We might have gone through our lives and get to a certain point where we've done, we've followed an education path, for example, or we've got a whole lot of skills in a certain area and we've built our way to a certain point, and so we lose connection potentially with what our purpose might be, because the purpose might be quite different to what it is we're doing. And I want to explain that by way of a bit of an example for me, where I was just a few years ago, up until a few years ago, an IT professional. So I spent decades of my life working in the corporate environment. I worked for companies like Deloitte and IBM, climbed up the corporate ladder and, did all that stuff, did my degree, and I actually really loved what I was doing. But I got to a certain point when I was in my early 40s where I didn't feel fulfilled. And I was feeling really quite empty on the inside. So yes, I'd made all this money and I had climbed the ladder and I was a manager. And theoretically, in theory, I should have been really happy because I'd achieved all this status in that corporate environment. And I was considered, really well considered by colleagues, and everyone was like, oh, April Mack, you're great at this, great at that. But I was empty on the inside. And I knew something was missing. And what was missing for me was the meaning in my life. I really didn't feel like the work that I was getting paid for had any meaning for me on a deeper level, on a heart level. And so I started to go inwards and question, what the hell was my life all about? Was it all just about having stuff, material wealth? Where was the heart connection? So I basically feel like up until my early 40s, I got very lost in a masculine domain, and really in this achievement domain where I was working to make achievements and successes of a material value. And in my early 40s, that all kind of came crumbling down when I had a bit of I wouldn't say a breakdown, but it was like a moment where I suddenly realized that there was more to my life than what I'd set up, and that things needed to change. And so then I set about finding the meaning and the purpose of my life. And it was surprisingly easy once I started to do that. And that's what I want to share with you today. And I really do, for those who've joined a bit late, I want to share with you how you can do this very simply. And theoretically, you could walk away and by this evening, you could know what your purpose is and feel rock solid in it. That would be, my dream come true if you can do that. So often we lose that connection. So if that's resonating for you, let me know. That'd be great, just to say, yes, this resonates. I feel like I've lost meaning at various times. Maybe that's not the case for you now, but if it has been at any point in your life, please do share. Some people feel not so great about putting comments in. That's fine too. But I do encourage you to make this conversation rather than just me telling you how it is, because we'll all learn more if we actually have a conversation. I know you can't hear each other, but at least we can text. So often we lose that connection. We get caught up in the rest of life. Yes, it has been in the past for you, Melissa. Yeah, cool. But it sounds like you've figured some stuff out now, which is awesome. So the first thing, in terms of trying to come back to what our purpose is, the first thing I always say to people is to tune in to their heart. Tune into your heart, because your heart is your best compass. And sometimes if we've really, really lost connection with our heart, that can be a tricky process to tune into it, but it doesn't have to be. So your heart as your compass is just such a valuable tool. And so what I suggest and encourage people is that you listen intently to the things that bring you joy, the things that light you up, the things that bring you meaning. They're the things, they're the pointers to your purpose. So for me, when I had this bit of a meltdown in my early 40s, I decided to tune in, and someone actually, a coach of mine at the time, said to me, he said, April, what do you do or have you done in the past that brings you meaning? And this was such a profound question to me, because it really made me stop and think. I thought, okay, well, what have I done that brings me meaning? And pretty much my whole work, corporate life was definitely out of the picture. But there was a thing that I was doing that did bring me meaning, and that was mentoring. I had been mentoring a young girl for many, many years through the Barnardo's Kids Friends program. And that was really what brought meaning into my life. And so when I thought about that and reflected on it, I thought, well, that's the most meaningful thing I've ever done. The relationship I had created with her brought me so much joy, so much pleasure. And when I realized that, I thought, I need to do more of that. That's what I need to do more of. So I set about really focusing in on how I could do more mentoring. And so I did more voluntary work in a mentoring capacity, but it's also the time where I decided to set up my own business as a mentor. And basically realizing the value that mentoring relationship gave me changed the course of my life. And it's now why I do what I do, and it brings me so much pleasure and joy to be a mentor to people, to help them discover their unique talents, their gifts, and bring them out into the world. It's huge for me. So it's going to be something different for all of us. Your purpose is going to be different, look different to mine. But if you can use your heart as that compass and really go inwards and say, what do I do that brings me meaning? What do I do that brings me joy? Then that's what's really going to give you so many answers if you allow it. And I think it's really useful not to think about, okay, what's my purpose in terms of how to make money. Like, you don't have to necessarily have work that is your purpose. You can have your purpose being delivered outside of work. So I just encourage people not to lock the two in. It's fantastic if you can find your purpose within your work, but it doesn't have to be combined. And certainly when you start exploring this for the very first time, you might be in a workplace where you're not finding it brings you meaning, or feel like it's in line with your purpose. But you might not be in a position to suddenly stop doing that type of work. So if you think, oh, well, I have to quit that so that I can do this other thing, that can put you under enormous pressure that maybe isn't the best thing for you. So I would just caution that you may not wish to combine the two immediately, and maybe think of it as a longer term vision, that your work in the world is also going to encompass your purpose. That's a great way to do it. Hey, Aristia, nice to see you there. I'm just going to push the comments to the side for a moment so I can just keep focusing on what I'm saying. And then I'll have a look at the comments at the end. So please do comment as we go if you feel inclined, and I will go back and have a look at them at the end. So using your heart as your compass is like number one tool. And you may already know this. And if you already know this, then maybe this is a good reminder just to go back into your heart. The next thing that I think is really, really a useful tool for finding your purpose is to do some journaling. And I know from my experience recently that some people have real resistance to journaling, and I know I personally had that same resistance. So if you don't like the idea of journaling, don't get too hung up on it. It doesn't have to be getting out a book and keeping a journal and looking over it and poring over it for days. You don't actually have to do that. Just get out a piece of paper, and I'm going to give you a few prompts to take away and write down. And whenever you feel like it, either today or at some other time, you might just want to use one of those prompts and then just let whatever comes out come out on the page. And that's what I'm calling journaling. So it doesn't mean carrying a journal around with you and doing it wherever you go and reading back over your notes every day. I'm not talking about that. That's a really great tool to use as well. But for this purpose, just get out a piece of paper and when I read through some of the prompts that I'm going to give you, see which ones stand out for you, which ones you think might take you somewhere, and just give yourself some time by yourself to write out the answers. And the reason that I suggest journaling or writing in this way is it taps into a part inside of you that is very difficult to reach otherwise. So you kind of just have to trust this process. And if you've never done it, I would just encourage you, just give it a go and see. I've had some people that I've been working with recently who have been totally blown away by doing this, and it has changed the game for them, literally changed the game. And for me, when I first did it, it changed everything as well. So I just, those of you who are going, oh, that just sounds like nonsense, or, oh, I've done that, I don't want to do that, or whatever, just give it a go. Please, humor me. And if writing is not your thing, you can do it through a voice memo. But I think the pen to paper, generally, you could do it on a computer, but generally pen to paper works really well. There's something that goes on, and I can't tell you the science behind it, but there is science behind it. And it can really get the unconscious mind flowing, and you can get out stuff that you just look and read back over and think, oh my God, who the hell wrote that? It's pretty cool. So when doing the writing on this, there's a few prompts. So if you've got a pen and paper handy now, just write these down, and you can either do any of these, one of these, all of them, whatever takes your fancy. So the first one is to write down the prompt, what have I done that has brought meaning into my life? So what have I done or what am I doing? You can write either or both. What have I done or what am I doing that brings me meaning? That's the first one. Second one, what have I done or what am I doing that brings me joy? And when I talk about joy, there's a difference between joy and happiness. And, you may already know this, but for those who don't, I actually don't think it was really until my early 40s that I fully experienced joy. Like, I felt happy. Of course, we all feel happy. But joy is something that's kind of off the charts. It's that combination, in my mind, and, you might want to add your own definition to this. It's a combination of where you feel happy, but that meaning and the fulfilled element and that, oh, this is what I'm here for kind of comes in. So when you get those moments, when I was figuring this stuff out for myself, the real joy that I experienced when I reflected on it was when I was with this young girl who I mentored, and when I could see her light up. And so for me, joy almost always, and I'm very interested in what other people think about this and what your experience is, but for me, joy is when I'm giving and I see the receiving of the gift that I've just given. That's what brings me immense joy. I don't think I can experience joy completely by myself. No, that's not true. Or joy I also now experience when I'm out in nature. So when I'm really connecting. So it's to me, it's to do with connecting. So clearly I hadn't thought about that definition before. Now I often just get on here and just, what comes out comes out. But yeah, that's what it is for me. I'm really interested to hear what it is for you. The third prompt to think about, if it resonates for you, is what have you done or what have I done that brings me peace. So, or what am I doing? What do I do that brings me peace? So really think about the times where you feel full sense of peace in your body. What are you doing when you get that feeling? And these are all going to give you, so when you do the writing on these are all going to give you pointers to what your purpose is. And it will be unique for you, but they're just ways to give you some pointers. The next one, the fourth one, is what am I here to give? I find this one a really useful one because I'm sure if you're watching this that you are some kind of a giver. You feel that you're here to serve others in some shape or form. Otherwise you wouldn't be drawn to watching me. And so if you write down at the top of your page, what am I here to give, or what am I here to create, this is going to, again, just let it flow. Write whatever comes out. A whole lot of stuff may come out that's absolute rubbish to start with. Just keep going. And the other thing to do as you're doing the writing on any of these prompts is to follow the emotion. So as you write, what you might find is that emotion comes up as you're writing. And emotion is a fantastic signpost as well, that something's there that you need to unlock, or that there's something there that's just about to burst, that's, you know, a real discovery. So as you're writing, if you feel a lump in your throat, just notice it, follow that, go that way, go that way. It's a signpost. It's like telling you this is where the gold is. So don't be afraid of the emotion, just follow it. The fifth prompt I have for you is, this might be the only one you end up using, is you write, my purpose in life is to, and then ... So this one is the one I did when I first embarked on this journey of really trying to work out what I was here for. It was recommended to me by someone, and they said, if you do this one, just do it until you burst into tears. Just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing until you burst into tears. So I could probably say that applies to any of those prompts. Keep writing until you've got that real emotional response that you know when you'll know when it comes out on the page. And the other thing to let you know when you do that, my purpose in life is to ... It's unlikely to be, oh, my purpose in life is to, it's unlikely to be very, very specific. It might not be, my purpose in life is to create skincare products for someone, or whatever, or to become a dentist. It's much more likely to be something broader than that. And so I'll give you an example of what mine is and what brings me emotion when I first did this. And it was a bit longer than this. I've kind of refined this so that it makes sense if I was to tell anyone. But my purpose is to wake people up to their unique beauty and talents, their inner divinity, so that together we can lift the vibration of the planet. So when I first did this, when that came out, some form of that, I sobbed and I sobbed. And because I'd worked in corporate for my whole life and been, on this treadmill and ladder and, trying to do all this stuff that really, really wasn't who I was. And so when I wrote this for the very first time, I was just like, oh my God, that is just not what I thought I was. That's not what I've been doing. And I had no idea that was what I was here for. And since discovering that, it's changed the whole course of my life. And so, it didn't happen overnight. After writing that, it's taken, several years for me to bring it all together into how I spend most of my time, really focusing in on making that my purpose in terms of all my interactions with my children, with my partner, with people who I work for and with. I'm always trying in the background. That is what's behind, you know, my life. But, you know, of course I forget it quite often. So I have it written up on my wall. And, you know, anytime I lose sight, I come back to this, and it's a foundation, you know, it's like, this has now become my compass. And so I know if I'm doing things that are really taking me towards that purpose, then I'm on the right track. And so what it then becomes is, this is for me, like the eye-opening beauty of it all, is that it doesn't matter what I do anymore. Like, I don't have to do a particular thing, you know, with that generic purpose. I could be doing coaching and mentoring one day, but I could do something completely different down the track in a year's time or 3 years' time. But as long as it's still in line with that beautiful purpose that I feel lights up my heart, it doesn't matter. And so suddenly it doesn't matter if I'm no longer a coach or a mentor and I'm suddenly doing something else. If it's still in line with this purpose, then I'm going to feel good, and I'm going to feel like there's alignment in my life, and that I'm, you know, that I'm not going against the grain of what my soul wants me to do. What I'm talking about here, and, you know, if that language is not for you, then you probably won't like watching me. What I'm talking about is what your soul's purpose is. It's not what April Mack, you know, the corporate person, wants to be doing, and, you know, the April Mack ego personality, what she thinks her parents wanted, or what she thinks will get her, you know, the tick of approval from friends. It's not that stuff. We're talking about something on a much deeper level. What is your soul's purpose? And if it's beautiful and broad like that, you can do whatever. As you know, you can do it in so many different ways. I can help wake people up to their beauty and their divinity, so that we can all change the vibration of the planet and lift the vibration of the planet. I can do that in so many different ways, and this is one of them. And coaching and mentoring and training people is one way, but I could do it really differently. It might look completely differently in a couple of years' time, and that's cool. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I hope it has been useful. I'm just going to check if there's any additional comments on here. That, hey Carly, love journaling. She loves journaling. I don't know if you're still on here, Carly, or not. And yeah, there's no other comments really. So I think I'm just going to double check that that's everything I wanted to share with you. If you're watching on the replay, as I say, hashtag replay, leave a comment. I'd love to know how this lands for you. Is there anything new, anything you don't agree with? I'd love to hear that as well. So it's probably ended earlier than I thought, because we haven't had the whole conversation going, which is totally fine. Hopefully it's in a, I can't tell how long we've been going, but hopefully it's in a time chunk that's been good for you. The final thing I did want to just invite you for, if you feel inclined, if you feel like you've got blocks with this and you don't know how to do this process by yourself and you want someone holding your hand, I would love to do that with you. And if you want that from me, I offer like a clarity session or a strategy session. We do it for an hour. If you want to know about that, just personal message me and I'll give you details. It's super easy to book in. And literally, you know, I've done this with people before. You might only need 1 hour with me and you'll have it nailed. And hopefully this session, you know, if you follow the steps in this session, you won't even need that. You'll have it nailed. So I hope that's the case for you. But please know that if you do need hand holding or someone just cheering you along, I'm here for that too. All right, so that's all. I'll say good night or farewell or good morning if you're watching from overseas. And I'll see you online soon. All right, take care. Bye for now.